There's something eerie about silence in a room full of children. A silence not born from focus, but surveillance. Obedience. Wires and waves replacing whispers and wonder. This isn't a sci-fi film, it's a classroom. Somewhere on the edge of Shanghai, children wear headbands that listen to their thoughts, cameras that study their yawns, uniforms that track their every move. And through it all, a question echoes louder than any school bell. What kind of future are we building when every blink, breath, and brainwave is data? I went looking for answers, but what I found was far more than just machines. I found children in a digital crucible, being forged into something new. Every morning starts the same, a fifth grade class, fidgeting just like any group of kids would. But before a word is spoken or a chalk squeaks across the board, headbands are clipped into place. Thin plastic halos pressing against their small skulls, silently scanning thought. They call it focus detection. I call it something else. Something colder. It's no longer about just learning equations or characters. It's about training your mind to perform under pressure, under watch, under threat of disappointment. The teacher doesn't need to raise their voice anymore. The algorithm speaks louder than any shout. It's strange to think about what's being measured, and stranger still to realize no one fully understands the numbers these machines spit out. Concentration scores, 10-minute intervals, bar graphs of attention. But how do you chart a child's wonder? Or account for the daydream that sparks a future artist? When you treat minds like machines, you risk forgetting the soul inside them. And yet, this is where it starts. The training ground for a generation that may never know what it means to simply be unobserved. China doesn't just want to lead the world in AI, it wants to redesign it, one face at a time. In the streets, people pay with a glance. No cash, no card, just a flicker of biometric identity. In schools, that same logic is applied to attention, discipline, obedience. The same code that unlocks your phone now decides if you're present enough in class. And here's the wild part. Most parents are okay with it. They see the tech as a tool, an advantage, a promise. But what price are we paying when even a child's concentration becomes currency? What happens when your yawn becomes a data point? Your restlessness, a warning sign? Your disinterest, a punishable metric? The scariest thing isn't how powerful the machines are, it's how quietly we hand them power. Not with force, but with convenience. Not with fear, but with ambition. And that's what makes this revolution so quiet and so dangerous. The classrooms look like science fiction. Robots greet students, scan temperatures, analyze engagement. The chalkboard is now a glowing screen, the notebook a monitored interface. Teachers beam with pride. Scores are up. Students sit straighter. They say discipline has improved. But behind the numbers, I see something else. Fatigue, compliance, a subtle shrinking of curiosity. These kids aren't just learning math, they're learning performance. How to look engaged, how to trigger the right signals. Because when every glance is recorded, authenticity becomes a risk. The class clown disappears. The rebel folds. What survives is the student who learns to blend in with the algorithm, to become invisible in plain sight. And in a system that rewards silence over spark, how many bright minds are being dimmed in the name of order? Even the clothes speak now. Microchips in uniforms track every step, every entrance, every exit. If a student skips school, the shirt knows. If they're late, the data tells. There's no room for error or privacy. Parents scroll through reports as if checking the weather. Teachers don't ask, "Why were you late?" They already know. And in that knowing, something dies. Because childhood used to be about discovery, of the world, of self. But how do you discover who you are? When your every move is logged, measured, shared? When the boundary between discipline and domination is blurred by a software update? In these halls, freedom is not forbidden, it's forgotten. Because when control becomes seamless, resistance becomes invisible. One boy, 5th grade, headband on, head down. We catch him dozing for just a second, and that second follows him home. The system marks him as inattentive. His parents? They punish. The grade wasn't just low, it was quantified, time-stamped, sent to a group chat for all to see. In this world, shame is digital, and it lingers. Kids are being taught that their minds are never truly theirs, that every lapse is weakness, every pause a problem. This isn't just pressure to perform, it's pressure to be perfect, all the time, under the gaze of something that never blinks. And that kind of pressure, it doesn't just mold behavior, it shapes identities. Permanently. Let's be honest, this isn't just education, it's experimentation. These schools are labs, and the kids, subjects. Billions of dollars poured in, data extracted, algorithms trained, but no one knows the long-term effects. Not the scientists, not the teachers, not the parents, and definitely not the children. They're too busy trying to score higher, sit straighter, focus harder. This is how normalization works. You don't ban freedom. You slowly replace it with upgrades. You don't silence dissent. You make it irrelevant. The experiment isn't just on brainwaves, it's on society. On what it means to learn, to grow, to feel safe while being watched. And every day that line gets blurrier. When asked, most parents say they gave consent. But what does consent mean when you don't understand the tech? When you don't know where the data goes? When you're told it's for your child's success? In a system that prioritizes performance over privacy, that consent feels more like surrender. No one reads the fine print of the future. They just hope it leads to better grades, better jobs, a better life. But what if the price is invisible? An erosion of trust, spontaneity, humanity? What if the very thing we think will save us is what slowly rewires us into something else entirely? Theodore Zanto, a neuroscientist in California. He hears about EEG headbands in classrooms and freezes. This tech is fragile, he says, prone to error, built for labs, not kids. And yet, here we are. Hospitals use it with caution. Schools use it daily. But when tech moves faster than ethics, you get systems that look efficient on the surface and fall apart under scrutiny. And still, it continues. Because the metrics look good. And good metrics are all anyone sees. No one tracks the damage done to a child's self-esteem when a faulty signal labels them as unfocused. No one measures the fear in a classroom gone silent under the watchful eye of code. But just because something works, doesn't mean it should exist. There are 200 million students in China, and more on the way. These kids will grow up not knowing what it means to not be watched. Their memories of school won't be laughter and chaos, but graphs and gadgets. They'll step into adulthood with attention scores burned into their timelines, with the understanding that someone, somewhere, is always listening. The question isn't, will this work? It's already working for the system. The real question is, what kind of people are we creating? Minds trained not to think freely, but to think efficiently. Hearts conditioned not to feel deeply, but to stay calm. Souls sculpted not by experience, but by expectation. If this is the future of education, then we must ask ourselves urgently, what are we really teaching our children?